favor, silencien los micrófonos. Ya comenzamos. Estamos esperando que se cargue YouTube y arrancamos.
Cierra bien.
Los micrófonos. Bueno. ¿Quién tiene el micrófono prendido? Lo silenciamos, por favor. Ahora sí, vamos a dar comienzo al evento. Copio acá en el chat. Bueno, ahora sí, ¿quién tiene el sonido de fondo? Necesitaría que por favor silencien los micrófonos para poder comenzar. Lo pueden silenciar en el micrófono que está en la parte de abajo de la pantalla. Tienen un microfonito, ahí lo silencian. Bueno, acá les dejé el link de YouTube. Así que bueno, ahora sí, damos por comenzado este evento. Bueno, Norma, bienvenida. Todos saben quién es Norma, ahora ella se va a presentar, va a ser el comienzo al evento.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, friends, members of ASOHPI. I hope everyone is okay and everyone is in good health conditions. Good afternoon, Andrea in Argentina, and also Paul. I hope all of you are okay. I want to say thanks for being here again. This is the second part of our Congress, our regional Congress. And as we did last week, I hope today we take advantage of time. And I'm sure we are going to have the possibility to learn a lot of strategies and a lot of things which are going to be completely useful for our profession and for our daily work with our students. So I hope Rosario Valenzuela from Secretaría de Educación de Neiva is also here, as well as Edernet Cárdenas from Secretaría de Educación Departamental. So without any more words, Andrea, the time is yours and Paul. Thanks very much.
Okay, well, I'm going to shift into Spanish to read Paul's information. Event, as you know, is in Spanish, but it had been specially designed for you in English. So, well, Paul Ponce es especialista bilingüe en educación a distancia, profesor de inglés con certificación TESOL y diseñador de imagen y sonido de la UBA. Paul Ponce es un profesor de inglés y un productor de contenidos audiovisuales argentino-estadounidense con más de 20 años de experiencia. Ha capacitado a alumnos de más de 40 países a través de distintos formatos y plataformas digitales, como así de manera presencial, alumnos de nivel primario, secundario y universitario. Ha brindado coaching en inglés a ejecutivos de las empresas más importantes como HCBC, EA, Toyota, Shell, Alibaba y Siemens. Paul, que se crió en Miami Beach, Florida, Estados Unidos, es el fundador de storypaul.com, un servicio de coaching en inglés y producción de contenidos educativos con clientes en Estados Unidos, China, Corea del Sur, Francia, el Reino Unido y Argentina. Entre algunos de sus proyectos recientes se encuentran 2020, productor bilingüe del videoclip All Over the Map, una pieza educativa creada para generar conciencia sobre el COVID-19, con la participación de destacados, producido para escuelas de Estados Unidos. 2019, consultor educativo de la multipremiada plataforma educativa Classin, a cargo de realizar pruebas con alumnos de nivel primario en Asia. 2012 al 2018, ejecutivo de cuentas de la plataforma de aprendizaje de inglés entretenido English Attack. 2015, guionista, productor y conductor de la serie educativa online Idiomatic Inc., encargada por la firma de estudios idiomas Gallery Languages Limited del Reino Unido. Bueno, ya les he hecho la presentación de Paul Ponce. Bienvenido, Paul. Mi nombre es Andrea Pollera, soy la organizadora de Sharing Materials Event Planner. Quiero agradecer ante todo a Norma, a toda la comisión y a la comisión directiva de ASOHPI por haber hecho este evento posible, por habernos contratado. Quiero agradecer infinitamente a Juan Carlos Vargas Millán, un amigo en común, ya de la ley, que fue quien nos presentó, seguramente hoy estará por acá, me agradeció en un mensaje muy lindo por teléfono. Bueno, a todos los participantes por estar hoy aquí presentes. Yo estoy a disposición de ustedes en el chat, lo que necesitan me consultan. Como les dije, repito a los que no estaban hoy todavía presentes, como les dije hoy en el chat, tienen el link a YouTube para verlo en vivo y voy a copiar también el link del participante para que puedan acceder. Bueno, sin más para decir, lo dejamos a Paul. This is all yours.
Okay, wow, how exciting. First of all, welcome to all members of ASOHPI. Thank you, Norma, and all members, all participating teachers and authorities from Colombia. It's really a pleasure to be here with you guys today to share some knowledge. And before I start with my presentation, of course, I want to thank my colleague, Andrea Pollera, from Sharing Materials. Without her, this would not be possible. She has worked really hard to organize this event and many other wonderful events this year. So thank you, Andrea. All right, guys and girls, let's get started. Okay, so you already know who I am. I'm not going to repeat it. I'm Paul. Guys, so let's get started. Okay, our topic today, as you know, it's also available in Spanish in the materials, Técnicas de Educación Digital, or TED, T-E-D. But today we are going to speak about this in English. So the material here on the slide will be all in English. So it's digital teaching techniques because you are language teachers, English teachers, and we're going to talk about it in English. And the questions, I suppose, will be in English too. Our talk today is divided into three parts. The first has to do with education in the 21st century. We're going to go into what are some of the challenges and opportunities. And we'll also talk about teachers and students in that context of challenges and opportunities. And because of all these things that have been happening in our world with the coronavirus, we're going to talk about what impact this has and how this can be the first step in a new education paradigm. Our second section is called the Digital Classroom Technology section. And here it's divided into two parts. We're going to talk about basic technology, and then we're going to talk about complementary technology. And then finally, at the end, we will, of course, do the Q&A, where you will be invited to ask questions. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. We have a lot. All right, so education in the 21st century. Of course, the 21st century has started almost 20 years ago, but it seems that recent events have pushed us really into this new education time more than it did 20 years ago. Why is that? Well, first of all, we had this pandemic that forced us all to be at home, having to use these tools which we're using right now, the cameras, the computers, the headphones, the microphones, the internet connections, and a lot of problems and headaches, right? So that was the pandemic. So our goal today is to kind of give a general orientation of how these tools that we are using and other tools that maybe we are not using yet can help us to start working in the way of the 21st century, right? You see, the idea is that young learners, especially those of you that teach children or teenagers, they have already been using these tools for much longer, right? They are very savvy with technology, with smartphones and tablets, and also with desktop computers. But now it's our turn as teachers to catch up. Again, it's not really a competition, but it's our turn now to learn about these tools and how we can use them for our job, right? So there's a road ahead, and this road ahead, like the picture shows, is long, and we must not let that, make us scared. We have to be patient. There's a lot to learn. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to talk about are the challenges and opportunities of this new time that we're living in, this new moment that we're in, right? Let's talk about the challenges of our educational system. Most of us are teachers either in schools or after-school institutes. Some of us might be independent teachers. In any case, all of us learned due to our age in the traditional education system, basically. And I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but it's an outdated system. And the reason why it's outdated is that the education system was created a long time ago to suit the needs of another world, a world that was pre-internet, pre-technology, pre-globalization. It was just a world of people living in their country, working in a job, going to work, not a lot of internet. So it was a world where a lot of things were sure, right? We knew that if we studied and we got a job and we got a degree, we would get a job. We didn't have all these globalization problems. We didn't have pandemics. We didn't have economic crises. We didn't have a lot of problems. So that meant that the education system was, the students were in the back, the teacher was in the front, there was one answer, the teacher had it, the students had to study for the test. And that was that, ladies and gentlemen. We don't live in that world anymore. So we have to kind of adapt. And this COVID pandemic is a nice way to realize that we have to change, right? Suddenly from night to day or from day to night, we found ourselves at home having to teach everything that we did before in the classroom from a computer somewhere in our home, probably in the quietest room if possible. Right? But the truth is that globalization has been here for a while, and we know what it's like. We know that it's a challenge to jobs, to things like the pandemic, to the environment, right? We also see the challenges brought by technology, where it's challenging the job market. There are fewer jobs in certain sectors. We have, artificial intelligence, robots. Soon we will have cars that drive themselves. Who knows? Someone will probably try to replace us as teachers, but I don't think that's going to happen because that is a necessary human quality. So I'm not worried about that. What we do have to do as teachers is we have to face these challenges and we have to adapt to the challenges, right? So that means that we have to educate for the 21st century because our students, especially our young students, are going to need skills for that time. Even if our subject is English, we have to teach English in a way that prepares them for that world that they live in. So obviously, there are a lot of opportunities here, right? The opportunities to do things differently, to learn new skills, new technologies, and obviously, as we said before, to move from the center of the classroom and to prepare our students for that new world. This changes the relationship between students and teachers. It doesn't really matter the age. Even with adults, I teach adults, and it still changes the relationship because we live in a different world, and so do they. But especially true for young learners, elementary or primary school students and secondary school students. As teachers, right, we grew up in a different world. We've already said that, right, with different systems, with books, not a lot of computers, right? So we need a lot of patience to face this challenge. And it doesn't matter how old we are, whether we're younger, millennials, Gen X, boomers, doesn't matter. We have to have patience with ourselves in learning these new things. We are going to meet frustration. We are going to have moments where that app that we downloaded doesn't work, where things just go wrong, where the internet crashes. And I hope it doesn't crash in the next hour because I'm really enjoying being here with you. And a good way to start to get ready for that challenge is to work in collaboration. And this is important because this is one of the skills that we need to teach to our learners, to work in a collaborative way. So we as teachers, we must also collaborate with each other, maybe by making WhatsApp groups, by creating other types of groups, especially now that we are distant from each other, to help each other out. There's always somebody in the groups that knows something that the others don't. Maybe there's a tech expert. Maybe there's somebody that knows about this new video, this new thing. So we have to help each other out. Maybe there's just someone that has a good story to tell so we can relax at the end of the day. Okay? The point here is that we are not alone and we have to work together. Okay? You know who you are and you know who your colleagues are. So you have to support each other in this process. Okay? Kind of what I put there in the hashtag, the virtual teachers room, or as I call it in Spanish, the hashtag sala de profesores virtual, right? So we have to create that because we can't have coffee in the meeting room anymore, at least not until this crazy pandemic is over. So we need to create that coffee room in the cloud, whether it's a Zoom meeting, a WhatsApp meeting, or whatever technology you like to use. We have to help each other out. And of course, with ideas to move away from the center of the classroom and let the kids be in the middle. And I'm going to tell you how that works too. So that leads us to talk about our students, right? Our students, as we said a couple of minutes ago, they know about technology and they know how to use it. They are curious. And you know what's great about them? Something that we can learn from them is they are not afraid to make mistakes. I've seen my daughter, I've seen other kids. When something goes wrong, they just try it again. They don't even complain. They just do it, right? Because they are growing up in a world with many possibilities, right? We grew up in a world where there was only one answer. It was at the back of the book. And if you didn't get it right, you got a big red X on your test, right? We have that mentality, right? Old world, industrial age mentality where there's only one way of doing things. That world is over. There are many different ways of doing things, and we need to work together to figure the best ones, right? So our students already know that, but we need to bring that into the classroom for them. So it's interesting because we're saying here that this new way of education is starting now thanks to the COVID, but education experts knew about this for a while. In the year 2002, the Department of Education in the United States, together with a group of top technology companies, I believe Microsoft was one of them, but also I think Intel, and I'm not sure if Apple was in the group. They did some research to find out, okay, what skills are kids going to need in the 21st century, right? Obviously, they need to read and write. Obviously, they need math. Obviously, they need a second language like English. Sure. And some computer skills. That was obvious in the year 2002. What was not obvious is that they also need other skills. So they discovered that kids, and really all of us too, that's why I spoke about the collaboration earlier, right? To survive in this century and to be successful, we need to learn the 4 C's, right? This works better in English than in Spanish. When I teach this in Spanish, I have to explain that the C's are in English, but in English it's better because it's critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. So let's take a look at what each one means. Critical thinking means that kids have to be given tasks in any subject, whether it's English or math or history or art, it doesn't matter, or even physical education. They have to be given tasks where they have to solve problems. They have to use their critical thinking skills. They have to figure things out, okay? Because that is a key skill of this age. And let me tell you, you guys are gonna have to do that when you learn to use a new tool. You're gonna have to play with it, you know, move around, see how it works, click here, click there. That's critical thinking. Trying to find how things really work, how things are connected. Not saying, oh my God, this doesn't work. I'm a failure. That doesn't exist anymore. That philosophy is old school. We got to throw that out. We got to be critical thinkers and figure things out and not get worried about it. Another thing that kids have to learn and activities have to be oriented so that they learn is creativity. And creativity doesn't mean that you're a great painter like Picasso or a great guitarist like Paco de Lucia. I mean, those guys, sure, they are creative. It just means that we find new things, we find solutions, we find ways to do things. So a lot of activities can be done, especially group activities, where kids can be creative, and we must allow them to be creative. In a language class, there's plenty of room for creativity. Kids can create stories, they can create songs, they can create games. The list is endless, and I'm sure you've done some of this stuff already. And that brings us to collaboration, a great way for them to have their critical thinking or to practice critical thinking, a great way for them to practice their creativity is if they can support each other. Because in a group, you're going to find people with different skills. You're going to have someone that speaks more, someone that speaks less, someone that has crazy ideas, someone that has more common sense, someone that can draw really well, someone that can sing, someone that's a good writer. So by collaborating, they can all help each other out. And of course, we're there to supervise and to provide a guidance and to make sure that things stay in a nice, friendly way, and obviously intervene when they don't. And that happens with young learners sometimes. But collaboration is the way, all right? Because the jobs today are collaborative. We have to work together. We have to help each other out to do stuff. We cannot survive alone, especially right now. And communication. And that is very important for us as English teachers because we teach communication. So if you think about it, in terms of English, right, as English teachers, the old school way of English was teaching lots of grammar rules, teaching lots of vocabulary to memorize. And that's just not communication. Sure, if you put the grammar and the vocabulary together, you can make a message, but it doesn't help them to become good at communicating. So our activities should be more communicative focused, more collaborative focused, more creative, or allowing them to be creative, and definitely should challenge them to think creatively, right? This brings us to the new education paradigm, right, which we talked about. You see the man here mixing the two chemicals, and that picture there is not a coincidence because we do have to mix some things in this new paradigm. So what is this new paradigm all about where we have to mix the chemicals like the man in the picture? It's called blended learning. You may have heard of it. You may have not, right? You're going to see in the material that in Spanish, it's the name is different in Spanish, but you'll see it there, right? But the original name is blended learning, okay? Because we have to blend things. So what exactly do we have to learn? Do we have to blend? Sorry. Well, basically we have to blend two situations, right? We have to blend maybe the theoretical with the practical, right? And there is a very specific and successful model of applying blended learning, which is called the flipped classroom model, right? We're going to watch a short little video in a minute that's going to explain it great. It's going to allow me to rest my voice for just a few minutes too. But let me tell you the basics of blended learning. Blended learning, the idea is that some of the learning happens at home and some of the learning happens in the classroom, but in a different way than before. Before at home, we were doing homework, right? So we did the theoretical learning in the classroom. The teacher would give the lesson, would teach us the grammar lessons, the math lessons, the science lessons. We were there taking notes, and then we had to do homework, and maybe we had a project once in a while. There was a project, and we were excited to do that. Maybe we even went to the zoo one day, you know, or to a museum or to somewhere outside, which is hard to do right now. And that was really exciting. But most of it was just theoretical stuff with lots of tests, right? And lots of writing and things like that. Blended learning is different because at home, the kids receive the theoretical stuff, right? And one way to do that today, and we're going to get into this when we talk about the educational platforms. One way to do this today is by sending the kids a short material to read or a short video, and it doesn't have to be something you created. If you find a good video that explains something like the one that I found right now that I'm going to show you, you can share that, okay? This idea that the teacher has to create all the content, that's nonsense. We are there to bring knowledge to the students. So if we find someone that explains something in a really great way, we can be kind of like curators at a museum, right? That you find the things that are right and you share that with your audience. So as teachers, you can find really good lessons. This is true for English teachers, for math teachers, and you can share those with students. Today on YouTube, you have amazing lessons on virtually every grammar rule, every grammar concept and linguistic concept. Some are designed for early learners, so they're kind of fun with music and cartoons. Some for more intermediate learners, some for business learners with examples related to that. You have great examples of videos to learn vocabulary and idioms, a ton of material. So you can be more focused on organizing that material, okay, in creating activities in the class for your student. That's really your job today, to be guides, to be facilitators of learning. You don't have to spend a million hours creating stuff. Now, there are teachers that are really good and they really love to create their materials, and that's fine too, okay? That's my other workshop about creating videos, but this one is about how to use materials, right? So let's take a look at how this works. So at home, the students do the hard learning, right? Or the theoretical learning. They watch a short video that explains the concept. Maybe they read a text. And in the classroom, they do a project with their classmates. Of course, the classroom today is the Zoom classroom. That's all right. So in the Zoom classroom, they can do projects together. They can break up into groups using the breakout rooms, right? Or using other technologies, as we shall see. Now, this is called the flipped classroom method, where the theoretical stuff happens at home and the fun, practical stuff happens in the classroom. In other words, no homework, no exercises homework, maybe watching a video and reading something. I'm going to share a video that explains that really well. Let me make sure that you guys can hear the audio. I believe I share the audio.
La clase invertida.
Did you guys hear that? Can you guys hear the audio for that? Can somebody just let me know if you heard the audio? Yes? Okay, thanks. All right, so you guys are going to hear about the clase invertida. So this is in Spanish, all right? Check it out.
Vídeo brevemente qué es el flipped classroom o la clase invertida. Y pensaba que es una nueva metodología, y ponía nueva entre comillas, porque realmente es antigua. A quien no le han dicho que llegue a clase con la lección estudiada, o léetelo que mañana así aprovechas mejor la clase. Pues por ahí van los tiros. En que reordena, por eso más que una metodología, es una forma de trabajar, reordena un poquitín la forma de dar la clase. Luego explicaremos cómo. Utilizando vídeos y otro tipo de documentos, ya sean apuntes, libros, etcétera, pues para aprender mejor. Todas estas cosas que hacen, pues que facilitar el aprendizaje, facilita, de tal manera que se aprende mejor. ¿Por qué? Porque es un aprendizaje más personal, pues que facilita los distintos ritmos en clase. Hay gente que va muy por delante y va muy rápida, y gente que tarda más, que va más a paso de tortuga. Y el hecho de trabajar un vídeo, de poderlo ver más de una vez, de pararlo y repetirlo, etcétera, facilita los distintos ritmos de aprendizaje. Además, si nos apoyamos de otras metodologías como el trabajo cooperativo, mejora las relaciones de clase, puesto que los que van por delante pueden ayudar a los que van por detrás. Vale, entonces, ¿cómo funciona esto en casa y en el colegio? En casa, lo primero que hacen es ver vídeos. Ver vídeos y lo explicamos cómo, es decir, ver vídeos con asterisco, trabajar vídeos tomando apuntes, poniendo pequeñas actividades fáciles, vídeos breves además, de tal manera que ese ver un vídeo se trata de extraer esa información para que convertirla en aprendizaje. No solo se trata de ver un vídeo de manera habitual, sino de extraer esa información. Así, si eso se hace en casa, en el colegio, ¿qué es lo que primero que se hace? Se resuelven dudas. En vez de empezar de cero, se empieza avanzado. Empiezas la clase resolviendo dudas. En vez de empezar pues sin saber algo, ya empiezas conociendo y además con ciertas dudas. Por eso, a lo largo de la clase se sigue aprendiendo. Se aprende tanto del profesor o la profesora como de los compañeros. Ya hemos dicho que el trabajo cooperativo ayuda mucho al flip y afianza conceptos. Tengo toda la hora para estar afianzando esos conceptos haciendo distintos tipos de actividades. Vale, muy bien. Entonces, ¿cómo reordena el tiempo una clase flip? ¿Qué es lo que, pues lo habitual, la que estamos acostumbrados? Una clase normal, pues empieza siempre con un repasillo, corregir actividades, explicación de la cosa nueva y por último, una puesta en práctica pues o aplicación de lo que acabas de explicar. En el flip sucede distinto. En primer lugar, se comprueba lo que saben, es decir, y por supuesto se comprueba que han visto el vídeo y empezamos resolviendo dudas, atendiendo a esa gente que lo necesita. Los que no lo han visto podrán ver el vídeo en clase si tienen la tecnología. Y después tengo toda la hora, el resto del tiempo para poner en práctica y aplicación. De tal manera que esas pequeñas dudas que hay durante la clase, puesto que el profesor está en el aula, podrá ayudar a resolverlas haciendo distintos tipos de actividades. Y además, como tengo más tiempo, pues para hacer concursos, investigaciones, distintos tipos de actividades, podré ir variando siempre centrando todo hacia el aprendizaje, ¿no? Con distintos tipos de actividades, ¿vale? Entonces, ¿qué se consigue con el flip? Pues yo diría que, por supuesto, es centralizar el aprendizaje en el alumno, que los alumnos sean más protagonistas, que sean autónomos de su aprendizaje, pero por supuesto siempre guiados, que nadie piense que les vamos a dejar solos. De tal manera que el profesor se ayuda gracias al trabajo cooperativo del compañerismo de unos con otros, de los que van por detrás. ¿Por qué? Porque facilita los distintos ritmos, puesto que unos van por delante y otros por detrás. ayuda a que cada uno vaya a su ritmo y además los que van por delante pueden ayudar a los que van por detrás. Por eso somos más protagonistas, porque cada uno avanza como puede. Así, el profesor ayuda a sus alumnos y sin tener que estar tanto tiempo explicando en la pizarra está más cerca de cada uno de ellos. Por eso son más protagonistas, porque está el profesor más cerca de ellos, de cada uno de ellos. Y puesto que tengo más tiempo, las clases son activas y puedo hacer más tipos de actividades. Así, pues pueden ser las clases más entretenidas o más enriquecedoras. Y por supuesto hay gente que luego se asusta un poquitín y dice, esto no hay que quitar nunca lo anterior. En clase, pues muchas veces explicaré de la forma clásica, cuando veo que la gente no se ha enterado, porque es una forma de reforzar. Siempre refuerzo, siempre, ¿no? Con esto lo que conseguimos es que haya más contenido en clase. Bueno, espero que os haya servido esa pequeña explicación de qué es el Flipped Classroom y os dejo mi cuenta de Twitter.
Okay, so here we saw an example, right, in Spanish. With these cute little cutouts of, also what that shows you is that it's pretty easy to make a video. You don't have to be a great video maker, right? You can just cut things out, put the camera in one place and make a fun video, as this example shows. But that's what the flipped classroom is, right? You send the kids a video to watch or a text to read with the key concepts of the lesson. Maybe they can take some notes. Those who are fast learners maybe can only watch it once. Those who are a little bit slower, they might need to watch it again, right? And that's something that doesn't happen in the classroom, because in the classroom, right, the teacher gives a lesson and the fast learner gets it, but the slow learner is in trouble, right? He or she doesn't have a way to stop the video and watch it again. So that's one of the things. And then you can use the rest of the class time, right, at the beginning to review, as the man said. And then the rest of the class, you can create practical activities, fun activities, games, contests, creative activities, discussions, depending on what it is, right? Dialogues. I mean, you know, in a language classroom, which is what we have to deal with, there are countless and infinite activities. And if you can't think of any, Google will help you. You will be able to find somebody who already thought of an idea, or you go to your teacher group and you ask for ideas. Remember, you are not alone here, and you have to ask for help if you need it. That's what this whole new learning system, new learning paradigm is all about. Okay, we are not alone. So let's continue. All right, that brings us to the digital classroom, right? The digital technology, right? Which is our main focus today. So we talked in the first section about this change that's happening, right? How the COVID has kind of forced us into getting more familiarized with technology, and how a group of experts has picked up on some key skills that we have to teach students or make sure students learn and include in our classes whenever possible, and also how it's a good idea to start using different learning techniques such as the blended learning or the flipped classroom method, right? That doesn't mean you have to start and change everything from one day to the next. You can start experimenting. Remember, it's little by little here. All right, so the idea of this and all these tools that I'm going to talk about, because I'm going to mention a lot of apps and softwares and programs and websites, is that all of this stuff goes way beyond the present, right? All of these tools are not just to think of cool things to do during this moment that we are at home because of the COVID-19, the coronavirus situation. This is going to help us beyond that when we come back to the classroom. And by the way, I might add that it's very possible, and I've heard this and I've read this on international education forums, that the blended learning and the flipped classroom system will actually be very useful when we return to the classroom, because we're not going to return the whole, 500 students to the building. For those of you that are school teachers, the education departments might decide to, break them up, and maybe first grade goes one day, second grade on Tuesday, third grade on Wednesday. In other words, because of this need to social distance, we are still going to have to do part of the class at home for a while, and maybe start doing part of the class in the actual building. So when we return, we're going to return kind of in a blended classroom experience. So, getting ahead of this is probably a good idea. And I invite you to read the material that we have about this, and to also do your own research. Okay, the material also includes links to videos, tutorials, and lots of other material which I did not create. Okay, and of course, the tools that we will see here, whatever they are, they might change. So today it's Zoom. Who knows what tomorrow it's called? Maybe in 5 years, Zoom doesn't exist anymore. And the most used video app is something else that doesn't exist, right? So we have to be flexible, okay? And we have to not be afraid of learning new things because the change is permanent. It's the only thing that's permanent, change. Everything else is not. So let's talk about the basic tools that we need for this new education model while we're at home, but also when we get back to the class, right? Basic technology, let's talk about it. Obviously, one of the key things is an education platform, right? Now, a few years ago, there were many education platforms around. In fact, Google Classroom was not one of them. There was one called Moodle, which was a lot more popular, and there were many others. Some people were even using WordPress, and they were using homemade or more, kind of smaller scale learning management systems called LMS, right, to use as an educational platform. But the reality was that there wasn't really a need for this yet. And today there is, because first of all, we live in a world where we're all at home, so we definitely need it. So what exactly is an educational platform? What is the purpose of it, right? Because a lot of us are using it because we have to, but are we really using it to its greatest use and advantage for us, right? Let's suppose that I have an educational platform used. In this case, let's suppose that I'm using Google Classroom, right? And I create a Google Classroom for this topic, right? And I call it Técnicas de Enseñanza Digital. So imagine that this is not just a 90-minute, webinar today. Imagine this is a 5-month course or a full year course, right? Like the ones that you guys teach, right? So this is kind of like where you can put the whole syllabus, the whole curricula, the whole program, you could put it on here, right? And maybe, we have a topic, but we could also include the links. We could also assign homework, right? We can, make sure that our students, we have our list of students that participate. We can give them grades. We can see who turned into homework, who didn't, right? We can talk one-to-one with our students. And this can continue when we come back, right? Because imagine, today we spend a whole bunch of time in the classroom taking attendance, writing what the homework is on the board. We shouldn't even have to do that anymore, right? Because every kid that's got a smartphone is going to have on his phone and on her phone is going to have the app on the phone, right? Downloaded, and they're going to be able to use it, right? So they will know, oh, hey, the teacher just assigned us something. They're going to see it on their phone that the teacher assigned something, right? It's going to be direct. And they might even ask the teacher a question, right? Through the Google Classroom to the teacher will ask. So the real purpose of a learning management system or of an educational platform today is real. About 20 years ago, it wasn't because internet was slow. Nobody had a smartphone. Today, everything is interconnected, and plus we're all at home. But imagine when we all come back, how useful it is for a child or for a student that missed class, that was absent, that had a problem. It's all there. It's all there. Hey, what do I have to do, teacher? It's in your Google Classroom, right? And maybe you teach different topics, so you have you have all your classes, all the classes that you teach, right? And you just go to the one that you're teaching right now, and you can manage your students, right? You can create a Google Classroom for each one. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to use it here today. And Andrea has a great webinar for that, actually. But what I'm telling you is that for school teachers, right, this is the best tool today, okay? They're not because I love Google, because there are things that I don't like about them, but they are very, very strong company in the sense that the technology, Google has servers all over the world. They're not going to crash. And if Google crashes, it's because the internet is down, basically. So the problem is when you use a platform that's just in your city or in your country, you're very dependent on the technology, okay? So it could really backfire. With Google Classroom, you're going to be really covered, okay? So you can have the material, you can assign the homework, You can talk to your students. They can see what's going on. They can see what the homework is. They can see what they have to do. They don't even have to ask you because they're going to get a message. You have to send it to them when you learn to use the assignment. As soon as you send it, you can send the assignment, send when it's due. Bing, the kid gets it on his phone, on her phone. They have no excuses. They know it's there. Okay. And when you're teaching younger learners, instead of being in contact with the students, right, the people that that's going to be on your list is going to be the parents. So that makes parents participate more, and it makes them more responsible. Ooh, I didn't know my son had to do that. Well, now you do, ma'am, or now you do, sir, right? So it's really helpful, and all parents are going to have a smartphone. So it's like, you know, okay, hey, your 7-year-old son has to do this assignment, so you can check. Okay, Juancito. Okay, Maria. Hey, did you do this? Teacher says you got to do that. Oh, I didn't know. Well, you got to do it, right? So it's a very macro tool, right? And I know a lot of schools had to learn how to use it, had to learn how to start using this in an emergency during the pandemic. But let me tell you, don't stop using it when you come back to the school, okay? Because imagine this. Imagine you're a teacher and you got your whole syllabus made out, and it's a lot of work, let me tell you, to create syllabus and all that stuff. But imagine next year, it's already done. You got your whole year organized. All you got to do is just, you know, assign it to the new students. Okay, so it's awesome. It is really awesome. And if there's a change, you just make the change and that's it. You know, in the digital world, it's easy to make changes. Okay, so that's the first basic technology. Again, Moodle is also good, okay, but Moodle doesn't have like not even 50% the flexibility of Google Classroom. They just stay behind. Okay, they did not adapt as quickly. And there are others too, but I recommend this one. Video conference platforms, I think the two leading ones are Zoom, which we're using now, and Google Meet, which is Google's own platform. Obviously, you can integrate the classroom, you can integrate the Google Meet into the classroom. So let's suppose that a student has to go to his clase de inglés at 5 o'clock, right? So he's got on his phone, right, or on his computer desktop, right, the Google Classroom address for his English class. And all he has to do, he has to go there, and there will be a link directly to the Google Meet, okay? So that's one of the things, that everything's integrated, and the docs are going to be integrated. You know, Google has everything. They got Google Docs, Google Slides, right, YouTube. So it is an advantage. But I've seen, like, this is what I've seen in my research. I've seen that the primary school students are using more Google Meet because it's less dispersion of information, so that the students and the parents have all the information concentrated in the Google Classroom, including where to go for the classroom. And maybe in the secondary school students, I've seen that they're using Zoom more because the students are older and they can, you know, they have more autonomy and they understand that they can go to, you know, the Google Classroom is here, and then the Zoom address is something else. But of course, you can share the Zoom address through, you know, through Google. You can share it through Google Calendar, through an email. I mean, again, you're back at the same place, right? So it's really not that different. These tools all allow you to do all kinds of things, like create, like record, like you know, draw pictures, share the sound. The only thing that Google Meet doesn't do yet, and here I must recognize that Zoom has an advantage, is at least the latest version of Meet doesn't have it. Maybe they will change it soon. But Zoom has the breakout rooms where you can break the students out into different sections. So for example, for collaborative work, let's suppose you have 4 teams of students. So you create 4 breakouts, and you as a teacher, you can go into each group and moderate, see how they're doing. You can supervise them and make sure that they're not messing around and wasting time, and, you know, or helping them if they have questions or whatnot, or sharing things that they need. And then you can bring them all back in. So it's really great. It's just like sending the kids into different corners of the room. So unfortunately, that's why it's used a lot more for high school students. Meet doesn't have that function yet. I'm sure they're probably working on it, but they don't have it as of today. So that's the breakout rooms. Again, in the material that I included here, you're going to find links to tutorials, and I recommend that you learn to use the functions of, you know, the Google Classroom, learn to use the functions of Zoom, learn to use the functions of Google Meet. It's not enough to just learn how to log on and log off and turn the camera on and turn the camera off. I mean, that's basic, but continue learning. And again, what we said before, you know, don't get stressed when it goes wrong. Don't, you know, it will crash. Things will not, you know, be successful on day one. And if they are, great. Consider yourself super lucky. They were not successful for me on the first day. All right, before starting a session with any video platform, it's also a good idea to create an environment for your class. Now, I know all of us are at home, and we share our homes with our husbands, our wives, our, you know, our family members, our kids, and that's okay, right? But if we can find a quiet place, or we can ask, right, a quiet space, right, and we can ask the other members, right, to respect that space and to keep quiet, right, and also make sure we have light in that space, right? I know it's not easy. But it's good to have a good light, okay? I invested not a lot of money, but let me show it to you. This is a light here, okay? It's an LED light that I purchased through Mercado Libre, which is popular, I think, in Colombia too. It didn't cost me a lot of money, and it gives me a bright, you know, so that I'm lit up. Because if you're dark, right, and you have a light background behind you, or you have a dark background behind you, you're kind of more turned off, right? And it's not going to get the attention. Everything you do, you know, students are attracted to shiny things, like all of us are. So that is important. If you are working during the daytime, make sure that you are not with a window behind you. Like I have a window right here, okay? That right now it's closed, but it's nighttime here, right? I keep my window closed so I don't get all that glare, but I wouldn't stand behind it. Because if you have a window behind you, you're going to be just a dark figure, right? And that's also going to be confusing, and students are going to be looking at that cat crossing the street. They're going to be distracted. So make sure that nothing behind you is too distracting. You could decorate your classroom. I got my little, you know, screen here, my books, the action figures, the stuff that I like that makes me feel good. All right, and that's fine, but make sure that you don't have distracting things, okay? Let's go to the next screen. So design your classroom here. Let me see if I find an example of it. There's a teacher that she designed her classroom. She's like an English teacher. So if you look here, she put her name, right? Teacher Vivian or Victoria. I can't read it too well. It's a little bit small. She put some, you know, funny cartoons there, right? So that students feel that they're in a classroom, right? Check your equipment, make sure, you know, it works all right. Again, you don't have to spend fortunes on equipment, okay? As long as it's working all right. Make sure that you have good light, though, okay? It's more important than a good camera, because the best camera with poor light, right? And be alive, you know, move around, especially if you got younger students, right? You got to find ways to make the class entertaining, and, you know, and be present. You know, don't be checking your emails while that, because they'll know. You know, if you're suddenly you're like this, then you know you're checking your email. I mean, they're not stupid, right? So make sure you don't do that. Have fun, you know, let it, and relax. Things will go wrong. You know, things will crash, programs won't work, things won't upload, and you might even have the internet crashing. So stay as calm as you can. You know, we're human, and this is very new. You know, this is all new stuff. All right, let's talk about complementary technology, because we're talking about the basic technology, right? The educational platform and the video platform. So I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff, but I'm not going to go in depth. So I'm going to just talk about, first of all, collaboration tools, right? So we said that students obviously collaborate, right? And they should collaborate, and we should create activities where they can collaborate. So what are some really good collaboration tools to use and to know about and to share with them, right? We're going to talk about some of them. The first and probably most obvious tool, like if they have to all like write a paper or create a report, right? Something really basic is Google Docs, right? Google Docs, here's a page of Google Docs where I'm sharing information about Google Docs, right? Google Docs is a word processor. I can click on here and share with people. I can decide I can share it with you, with her, with him, right? It's pretty easy, right? It's just part of what comes with Google. So that's pretty obvious, right? Next is one called Jamboard, which I like. This is in Spanish because originally this speech was in Spanish, right? So this is also a collaborative board. So you know what Jamboard is really good for? Like if students get together and they have like 10 minutes or 5 minutes or 15 minutes to come up with ideas for an activity, right? They can get a Jamboard together, right? And they can throw all their activities, right? You can write on Jamboard, you can put little sticky notes on it, you can paste images, right? You can have lots of pages, and of course you can share, right? So let me just quickly show what that looks like. So I can choose the background. I could make it look like it's like a piece of paper, right? I can write with a pen. Let's see, a blue pen here, right? I can just write my name or whatever, right? I can also make it look like I'm using a highlighter, and it looks kind of like a highlighter, you know, like those really cool highlighters that, so it's got nice stuff, and it's got sticky notes. So I can create a sticky note. Okay. I can write ideas here, right? And I can create them. And so, you know, I've done this with some of my business groups, right? I break them up into groups, and, you know, they're supposed to give short presentations, and they wanted to use PowerPoint. I said, no, don't use PowerPoint. PowerPoint is a pain. It takes too much time. So they use Jamboard. And I just said, write your ideas on the little sticky notes, right? And that's fine, that's good enough. Great collaborative tool, really easy. It's part of the Google suite, so you can easily incorporate that. And absolutely everything that's on Google, the kids can open, the kids and you and everybody can open on a mobile device, such as a smartphone or a tablet, right? So you're never really done editing. You can continue later. You know, kids like to do stuff sometimes lying on a couch, and they like to continue working on stuff, looking at stuff. They have that ability. We don't, they do. So keep that in mind, okay? So the whole Google suite, all the Google tools are available on a laptop, whether it's Windows or Mac, on a smartphone, any kind of smartphone, iOS, Android, and on tablets, which also run on those two systems, iOS and Android. All right, the next collaborative tool that are good to use, we talked about Google Docs and Jamboard, is one called Genially. Now, Genially it's another dimension, okay? In Google Docs, you know, you write whatever you want to write, whatever words come out. In a Jamboard, you can, you know, write stuff, cool ideas. Genially is when you want to make really amazing presentations. So all this fancy stuff, here are some presentations that were created by somebody. So like, for example, let's see if I can find it. Okay, somebody created a presentation about, let me see if I can find it quickly. They're all really nice visually to look at. Let me see if I had it here, blended learning, right? So for example, we were talking about blended learning, so I figured why not share it, right? So this presentation about blended learning, look at that, it's nice. This is blended learning. It's got numbers, the little chalk pieces are moving, right? It's amazing. It's really nice and pretty, right? I go to the next screen, you know, little graphics. It's, you can read about it, right? The next page, it explains what it is, right? So it's, and I can click on each thing, and it explains what each thing is. Again, we're not going to read this here right now, right? And I can go back, and you're probably thinking, wow, you know, you need to be a programmer. You need to, you know, be a graphic designer, right? So you already need 2 skills, which are very difficult to have in a school. And you know what? You don't. Okay, because what Genially has is that they have pre-made templates of all kinds. So if you and your students, especially, you know, students, when they want to create really cool stuff, you can create games, presentations, timelines, dynamic timelines that move, reports, right? I was creating one here. Let me just show you really quick. I was creating one here about storytelling, right? It's loading. It's taking a little bit of time to load. Hopefully it'll load sometime before the end of this class. Okay, that's just the speed of the internet. But anyway, what I wanted to show you, there it is that it uses the same template that we saw a couple of minutes ago in the other one about blended learning, which is not the only one. There are like 50 different templates, right? So I use this, right? So here I edited the text, right? I edited this. I wrote storytelling in business, how to engage your audience. That was me, right? Then I moved to the next screen, right? And then the next screen, right? And so on and so forth, right? So I can, for example, preview what this is going to look like, right? So I'm going to see what this looks like that I created. It's going to be a little bit different, right? But again, it's really nice. So I created my menu, right? Just by following the steps, right? Anyway, I don't want to keep it too long here, okay? So this is Genially, okay? Genially has infinite numbers of templates that you can use to create amazing things. Again, you or your students. Sometimes you might say to your students, okay, use Genially and create something, and they can collaborate with each other. But there is a catch, I must tell you. With Genially, the catch is that you have to, if you use the free, everything that you create is shared in the public. But again, you're not going to have something that's top secret here. So if your students create a presentation about, Shakespeare or whatever it is, it's going to be shared by everybody. It's going to be shared to everybody, to the whole world. Not a big deal. Okay, not a big deal. If not, you have to get the paid version. Okay, all right, another app is called Padlet. Padlet is kind of similar to Genially in the sense that you can create boards. Actually, I'm sorry, Padlet is kind of similar to Jamboard, that you have a board and you can put information on it and collaborate with it. So here I created this, the original board was kind of empty, right? And I created a Padlet, putting text, right? Adding images, drawing. You could add a video to it. You can add a Google search. You can do a screen capture. You can record sounds. So this is really cool too for, I've used this with teenagers that were creating, kind of fun projects, talking about their favorite movies or favorite movies it was. So they wrote like a summary of the movie. They created they shared the trailer. They did a Google search and added some stills about it. And they share this on a Zoom call that I have with them. Okay. Again, this is free. It's really cool. All right. And here's another one that's called Answer Garden. Okay. Answer Garden is really fun. All right. So this is kind of like, okay, I can write here. What is your favorite technology tool for education, right? Suppose that I ask that question, okay? And I want you guys to answer me. So I'm gonna go to this. I'm gonna say, okay, create it. Okay, and it's gonna create this question. Okay, and I'm gonna share this question here in the chat that we have. Okay, so please check the chat. And I'm gonna drop it in there. All right, so I'm going to drop the link. Hang on. Paste. There we go. So go to that chat, okay, and all right, and answer which is your favorite technology tool for education. I'm serious. Do this right now. All right, so I'm going to put Google. I'm going to put Jamboard, all right, just to be different. All right, and do this right now, please. All right, somebody wrote Padlet. Good. All right, that wasn't me. I was the guy that wrote Jamboard. All right. Again, you can find the address in the chat, in the Zoom chat. Okay. Let's see if everything's all right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're gonna have to move on. So again, this is the way this works. Okay, so let's see if there's only one answer, one for Jamboard, one for Padlet. Okay, don't worry about it. We don't have a lot of time, so that's why maybe we don't have all the answers here. Again, the purpose of this is for a teacher to share a question, right? And this is great for online classes. And then people can, send their answers and you start getting a word map. Okay, it's really, really cool. Okay, really, really cool. So let me show you one that I did with another group of students. Let's see, so you can kind of get an idea. You see here. Okie dokie. There we go. Answer garden. Okay, answer garden. All right, so here's an answer garden that I created with another group of students. Okay, and they answered this. All right, so they answered. So you get kind of a map. So if more people, right, more people said classroom, some said Padlets, some said Google Classroom, right? There were different answers, right? Let's see if we got a couple more. No, we didn't. I'm not sure what went wrong. I'm sure that many of you are sending the response, but maybe for some reason Answer Garden is not loading now and I don't want us to spend more time with this, okay? So it's a great tool, okay? It's free. And again, all the links to this are available in the material. The one thing is that you have to write answergarden.ch, okay? Because I think it's Switzerland, Community Helvetica, right? Comunidad Helvetica, which is the name, the internet name for Switzerland. Okay, it's actually not SW, that's Sweden. Anyway, so make sure you check that out. All right, we talked about collaboration tools. Let's talk about visual boards. Visual boards are also cool, not only for online classes through Zoom and Meets, but also when you're back in the classroom. All right, sometimes you need to, make sure your students are organized, right? So for example, let's suppose that you have a class and you're talking about Egypt, right? So I'm using a tool called, let me share the name here. Okay, it's called Classroom Screen. Okay, this is the first virtual board here, which I like to use a lot. All right, in Classroom Screen, you can have lots and lots of different backgrounds. You can even have animation. You can upload your own background. You can use your webcam so your face will appear there. That's a little bit scary. Or you can just use flat colors. Here I decided to use this, right? You can add a calendar to it. So I just added a calendar. You can add a clock, right? You can also add some work symbols. Like I want my, let me just move this here. All right, so for example, I want my students to be silent now. So I want them to know that, or I want them to whisper to each other, which is not possible online. I want them to ask their neighbor or their team player. I want them to work together. So I can also give like premises, indications of what I want students to do, right? I can add a traffic light, indicates, okay, go, right? I can have this is one of my favorite functions, the dice, right? And there's also, let me get it here, the random name, right? So I have like, different students. I have Juan, Maria, Pedro, Susi, right? I got those 4 students and I can randomly choose which one I want to do the activity, right? So let's see, Pedro has to do it, right? So that I don't feel that I'm not calling on always the same student. So let's see, who will do the activity next? So I randomly choose it, Maria, right? So it's got a random name color, it's got a timer, it's got obviously writing tool where I can write. It's got a drawing tool where I can write, where I can draw, right? So this is a cool tool to use as a virtual board, okay? Another virtual board is called Notebook Cast, okay? Notebook Cast is obviously, oh, I forgot to mention, Jamboard can also be used by a teacher as a virtual board, okay? In fact, I could even, let me come up with another one. Let me come up with a background. So I can even have a black background, right? And I can, write using clear letters, and it could look almost like a real board, right? So again, there are many, many types of boards. So Jamboard can be used for that. We talked about Classroom Screen. We talked about, this is another one called Notebook Cast. Okay, I'm just going to mention it. Okay, it's another one because we need to give you guys some time for the questions. I don't want to leave you guys without the question time. There's another one that's called Creately. Creately is to create flowcharts, okay? So this is really cool, especially for education, okay? You can, create different things, or you can give this to your secondary school students, or if they have to, analyze a sentence or something. This is free. It's a free flowchart creating tool, okay? It's also collaborative. So the point is that there are tons and tons of tools, guys, and the list is endless, okay? So it is a virtual board in the sense that you can present the information as a board. So again, we spoke about 4 virtual boards, right? We talked about classroom screen, which is this one, notebook cast, Jamboard, right? And Creately, which is for flowcharts, creating flowcharts mainly. All right, let's move on to another topic, which is games, right? One of the things that keeps students engaged is the gamification of education, using game theory and interesting activities to keep students engaged and having fun, right? And what are some cool games? Okay, there are a few. Let me mention some, right? One of my favorite classroom games is a game called Kahoot, which unfortunately we're not going to have time to play today. All right, but it is a fantastic game. I'm just going to do a quick demonstration of how it works. Okay, so you can download it for your phone. You can create a teacher profile. And when you play, right here, there's a Kahoot, a 10-question Kahoot about adjectives, right? So it's just a grammar practice. So I press how I want to play it, right? And let's suppose that I have my students, right? And I want them to play it. They have to download the app, obviously, okay, which they can do. Download the Kahoot app, okay? And I'm going to use the classic model, right? I'm going to press start. And it's going to give me a number, right? 619627. If any of you have Kahoot, just join up. I'm going to enter these names here, the PIN number. 619627. You can probably hear the music, so that's fun. Oh, I got to put a name. All right, so I'm going to put Paul. All right, so that's me, right? You can see me, I'm there. Okay. And imagine this is with all your students are here, right? Grammar, adjectives. Okay, I don't know what the first question is. It's a quiz. What is an adjective? I have 4 choices. Okay. Describes, identifies, or quantifies a noun or a pronoun. Describes a verb. Demonstrates a location. Demonstrates an action or a state of being, right? So obviously the answer is this one. So I use this as my answer score. I chose it. Okay, and that's it. So only one person answered because that was me demonstrating it, right? And I move on to question 2. I'm not going to do question 2 because we don't have time. Oh, Paola, I'm sorry, I didn't see that you joined. Okay, unfortunately, time doesn't allow us to do more. All right, but this is a really, really fun game, okay? And you can create Kahoots, okay? You can create Kahoots. Amazing game. Guys, I wish we had like 5 more hours because that's basically what we would need to talk about all this, okay? Sorry, Paola, and sorry, everybody, that we don't have time to go fully into this. Another one is called Class Craft, right, which is a game that's used for younger learners, and it's to gamify motivation, okay? It basically has the idea that students can have avatars, and each student in the classroom can be a character in a fantasy story, and there can be goals for the classroom for an English class. So every time, and they can work together in teams. Every time they achieve objectives, they get points, right? And they get points for collaborating with each other, for doing homework, arriving on time, things like that. But those awards and those stories are related to this fantasy story, an adventure, with superpowers and things like that. So obviously this is for an age group of certain students. This is probably not going to be very effective for high school students, but it could be effective for primary school students. There are very cool characters for boys, for girls. It's a lot of fun. And it requires some setting up, right? So if you have a group of students that needs motivation, this is an ideal tool. Another tool, which is really great, is called a Quizlet. Okay, Quizlet allows teachers to create quizzes, right? And here there's one for a grammar one for nouns. You can just review it. It's like a flashcard game. You create flashcards. You can use it to learn. You can, write in it. You can use it to spell. You can use it as a test. You can have a live competition. So let me see here. I'm clicking I think the test mode. Right. So here it's in a test mode, and I have to, write the correct answer. Right. The previous, there's another mode where you can actually look at a kind of like a flip card where there's a question on one side and you have to guess what the right answer is, right? Okay, let's move to the next topic, which is graphic production tools, right? And give me a second for that, guys. Let me put my timer back on so I can keep track of time. Yeah, because I wanna go to the questions in about 1 minute. Graphic production tools just means tools that you can use to create things, right? The best one is Canva. Okay, Andrea and I are both, big fans of Canva. They're great tools to design stuff. You can design anything, and I mean anything. Look at this: infographic, presentation, posters, events, calendars, photo books, Pinterest things, whatever, right? Whatever you want. Let's suppose that I wanted to create an infographic, right? So I already pick a template that's already made, like this one. Look how cool it is, right? But maybe my template isn't really about this topic, right? Maybe it's about something else. So what I do is I edit it. Okay, let me just move it. So maybe it's not about educate kids, it's about something else. But by choosing, okay, maybe it's about, I don't know. Right, safe, or what is it? Washing hands, right? Whatever. I can come up with the title of it. It's a little bit big, the text, right? So no problem. Washing hands is a little bit big. I'm doing a tutorial on how to properly wash hands. So that's a little bit too big, right? So instead of 110, maybe I'll make it 96. That fits pretty good, right? Then I have this other text here, which I don't really like. I just get rid of it, no problem, right? And I don't like this graphic here, so I can change it. I can add graphics, I can add elements, different elements, all kinds of elements here. It's loading, right? Pictures, shapes, all kinds of cool shapes. You can just drag it on to this cute ice cream. I can just drag it on here. A little bit big there. It's even moving, right? All right. So again, the whole point is that you can text, right? All kinds of stuff. And then you can share it, you can download it as in different ways for Twitter, Facebook, as a presentation, or just as a PDF or a PNG. It's a file that you can use, right? All right. And finally, so Canva is a great graphic design tool to design amazing things: posters, presentations, infographics, right? Okay, somebody is entering in the last 15 minutes. All right. And finally, we've got video production tools, right? There are plenty of tools to create video. Those of you that have smartphones, which I'm sure is most of you, right? If you have iOS or you have an iPhone, you probably have the iMovie, okay? And if you have Android, there are a couple of really good programs, okay, and that you could also download. There's the one that is really nice called Premiere for Android. But if you're working in a desktop, I recommend this one, which is the one that I included, called Shotcut. We don't have time to see how it works today, but it's pretty simple to use. Okay, it has, let me just at least show you what the interface looks like. So basically the way it works is that, get the thing here, you import the video. So here at the bottom, you have like the timeline. Here you can see what the video is. And here you have a few tools to cut the video, make it longer, shorter, brighter, mix with other videos, add sounds, add pictures. You can even make titles, and this is all free. Okay, and of course you have tutorials, okay, and that's included in the link. Okay, so that's Shotcut, a free video maker, very complete, but also easy to use for users of Windows. I think there might be one for users of Mac, but Mac users don't need them because they have iMovie for free. So it's for users of Windows. And that's basically it. Okay, I'm going to take the questions now. So I'm going to hand control back to Andrea. That's a little bit everything. So Andrea, I'm gonna send it back over to you. Okay, so I don't know how we're gonna manage the questions. All right, so I would love to hear your questions. All right, so how are we gonna do this? Through the chat, right? All right, so let me see. And I see people are also suggesting other things. Yeah, that's great. So make sure you look at the chat because other people obviously know really cool tools to use. All right, so well, as we wait for the questions to arrive, all right, let me see here. Let me just prepare here. Okay. All right, so are there any questions, guys? If you haven't, then I can come up with a few. All right.
Sorry, Paul. I think that Andrea is having some problems with the internet connection. So there is.
Okay, that's fine.
Teacher Adriana has a question related to. I think she's asking for. Let me see here. Probably she has some doubts about Genially, and she's asking if that is similar to Google Slides.
Oh, wow. Great question, Adriana. Okay. Is Genially similar to Google Slides? No, it's not. Google Slides would be like this. It's a great question, right? Kind of like what I'm showing today. It's just like a PowerPoint presentation. And, you know, if I want to make a slide with Google's, I just, you know, put the text, put the pictures, and it's pretty straightforward. Genially, it's a little bit more complex because first you have to find you have to first go to the template that you want to use. So I go to create Genially, and it's going to give me a list of the kinds of things that I want to create. For example, a presentation, a report, a learning experience, a gamification, an interactive image, a horizontal infographic, a guide, personal branding, a video, or a blank creation. And when I choose one, let's suppose I choose presentation, it's going to give me a template. And then in the template, I'm going to be able to edit something that was already created. So because these presentations of Genially have programming and animation, I am not doing everything. Well, apparently I have to have a pro plan for that one, but there are some that are free that you don't need a pro plan, like the one that I was showing before, right? So a lot of the, let me go back to the creation that I was showing before. So like in this creation here, right? I didn't create any of that. The one that had the board, right? I'm adding like the text and maybe changing some of the things, but they're very, very sophisticated, you know, presentations. I mean, look at this, look at the text, look at the graphics. It's very professional looking. So all I'm doing is I'm changing the words, okay? So this presentation has a title page. It's got a menu page, right? It's very well thought and very well organized, and I can use the parts that I want or not, right? So I hope that answers your question. It's like a PowerPoint presentation or a slide presentation, but created by a programmer and a graphic designer, right? So it's like a very powerful presentation. It's got a lot more than anything you'll ever be able to do on PowerPoint. All right, let's hope to see. Okay, Norma, you're asking if there are more questions. Thank you, Norma, and thank you to the teacher that asked the question. Okay, so we still got a few minutes.
I guess I have a question, Paul.
Please, go ahead, Norma.
During these last days, we have got a lot of information about great strategies and tools that we can use with our students in our classes. But I have a concern. How can we find like a balance? Because we have hundreds of possibilities. So how can we find like a balance to avoid making our students get so used to these strategies and technologies and not to do other type of activities in class? I know if you understand what I tried to say. I mean,
you mean like to be overwhelmed, right? Yeah.
Yeah. How to find a balance among these hundreds of possibilities that we have to use with our students?
What I would say, more than finding a balance, it's a great question, how to find a balance. I would say take a look at your goals, like reverse engineer the situation. In other words, think about the goals of the class. You know, what kind of a class is it? What are the goals of this class? And then look at the menu of tools that we talked about today and think, well, what tools could help to do, you know, to be used for an activity? And start small. Whatever it is, start small. Like if you want to, for example, recommend Jamboard for your students to use when they work collaboratively, okay, let them use it one time, see how it goes. But don't tell them that they have to use Jamboard, Genially, Padlet, make a game on Kahoot, you know, all in the same week. Because that would be like overload. So I would also see if it works well with the students, you know, because maybe sometimes things backfire. We try and they don't work. So in that regard, it is kind of a trial and error, but I would say go easy, go slow, go lightly, and maybe pre-plan some of this, like brainstorm. Like with this group, I think maybe we need a game because it's kind of a boring class. With this group, well, they're very creative, so they could probably really take advantage of Genially. This group, they could really, they would probably really love Kahoot because they have to review grammar and it's boring, so Kahoot could bring that to life. In other words, think about what's the right match is, right? Find the right combination, I guess. I don't know if that answers your question, Norma.
Yeah, you did. Thanks a lot.
My pleasure. Yeah, right. Let's see. I see a question here. Great webinar. I learned new tools for having, okay. Oh, yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely. I'm glad you learned new tools. So somebody here was thanking me. You're very welcome. Absolutely. So let's see, any other questions about the types of tools? What about Pearl Deck? Okay, just started using it and I'm planning to pilot it with a colleague. Oh my goodness, I love when this happens, when somebody mentions something that you're not familiar with. I'm gonna humbly admit that I'm not familiar with Pearl Deck. So, you know, if you're starting to use it with a colleague, you know, just, again, the same expectations as with everything else, right? Go, you know, first experiment with it. Don't start using it. I'm seeing here what it is, by the way. I'm Googling this as we speak. So it's something that you can use with Google Slides, I can see. Okay, so somebody was asking about Pearl Deck. I'm sharing this with everyone. There was a question about this tool. So it's, let's see, effortlessly build engaging instructional content right from the Google Slides. So apparently Pearl Deck, yeah, has some things to make Google Slides a little bit, right, more visually rich. So again, you know, this happens all the time with technology companies, that there's a tool, like a basic tool, and then somebody designs another tool to make that tool better. And it's a little bit goes back to that slide that we saw at the beginning where, you know, we show that long road ahead and it just never ends. So I haven't used Pearl Deck, but you have, you know, woken up my curiosity and I will be checking it out. I would say if you're just starting out, my advice is, you know, test it out a little bit, see how it works for you. Don't get too crazy with it and see how effective it is and if it really makes a difference. You know, a lot of people ask me, what's better, Slides, Google Slides, or PowerPoint? It depends. PowerPoint has some fancier stuff, but do you really need the fancier stuff that it has? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe Pearl Deck adds that extra balance that you needed. Maybe it really doesn't, right? So somebody here was interested in checking out Genially after, okay, this presentation. Yeah, definitely check it out. Especially check out where they show you all the examples, because there are hundreds of them and some are really, really nice. So you're very welcome. Are there any other topics that you guys like to ask me about? I guess we got about 2 minutes left, 1 minute left. I'll take at least one more question. Norma, have you got anything that is left pending that you think would be useful for this wonderful group of teachers here?
Okay.
See, there's a message.
Okay, no, I think that everything is covered. I think that my friends or teachers have learned a lot of strategies and tools, and they have had a good time because it's really interesting to know the hundreds of possibilities and how creative we can be with all these tools in our hands. So it's not just teachers, but our students are going to be highly motivated and they are going to get very good feedback in our classes. And I think that every day and with everything that we learned is going to be something good for our students and for our profession.
Absolutely, absolutely. I share your comment, your idea. I totally agree with it. It's going to be really useful for you guys. Again, take it step by step. I'm going to address one last question. Somebody was asking me about offline games or offline apps. Sure. I mean, if you could find a way of making it work, absolutely. You know, sometimes I just, you know, I use this with some students. I have this dice and I throw it here on my table and we see where it landed and it, okay, you know, and, you know, these things, you know, make it visually rich. You know, I got this one for my younger students too. You know, this lovely puppet shark, which is called Sharky, which talks whenever you want, right? So whenever you can bring things to life, especially in this environment, you are going to, you know, put a smile and you're going to put attention on the other side. So anything that's offline also works, guys and gals. Absolutely. Absolute pleasure to be with you all this evening, this afternoon. Okay, I love Colombia, the country, the culture, everything. So great to talk to you guys today. Really nice. Okay.
Okay, before we, thank you very much, Paul. Amazing your presentation. Sorry, I have lost connection for some minutes. Just when I was going to ask the questions, I left you alone, Paul. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's quite all right.
Can you stop sharing screen so I...
Absolutely. I'm just writing one little thing here. And I'm... Okay, wonderful. Let's see. There, I stopped sharing the screen. Wonderful.
Perfect. Well, before you leave, I would like to show you Paul's course, virtual course, that you can have access for a month, which is a more detailed course regarding what he has presented today. The course has different topics where you can see here on my screen: tecnología en el aula digital, preguntas y respuestas, and here there are detailed information about all the presentation that Paul has delivered today. So as to continue, I would like to show you a short video to invite you to the Thanks God It's Sharing Friday in English and Spanish that we are going to deliver 2 giveaways today as well. En August, September, October, técnicas de enseñanza digital, aprendizaje socioemocional aplicado, el teatro como instrumento para combatir el bullying, and the same events, different events, sorry, but in English. In August, next week, Ponce. How to easily create video content for EFL students. In September, Collocations, Critical Thinking, and the 3 R's by Jason Levine. In October, Critical Creative Strategies to Make Learning Memorable by Dictado Gonzalez. Well, for those 6 events, not 6, but 4, I will make the giveaway right now. Sorry, I can move up. Here they. So the winners are Arnold Leandro Patio, Rosario Valenzuela. Are you here? Are you here today? No? Okay. Well.
Rosario is here.
Rosario is here. Okay, perfect. Well,
Congratulations.
all the other members and the ones who have won last week as well can contact me by private message or just contact Norma and she's going to contact me. In the chat, you can see that you have all the information